Hello, it's John Binnie. Well, here we are, driving from Edinburgh all the way to South Devon. It is an 8.5 hour drive if you don't stop and you're in a car. Neither of which will be true for me. That said, I don't need to stop to go to the toilet somewhere. I can just stop and go to the toilet in the camper van, which is good. And I have all the refreshments I need around me. I also set off at 11 p.m. So my plan is to drive as much as I reasonably feel like it through the night and just see how I'm feeling. I can stop anywhere on the way. It feels quite liberating. So there's just Patch and I heading down to visit people, which is a lot of fun. On the drive, now I don't know how long this video is going to be. It'll depend how long my microphone lasts for. I am going to talk about the subject of what it's like when you're 4 years old. And it's a continuation on from the Higher Self Foundational Training course that I just completed the last Zoom call for just prior to setting off on my overnight journey. And it's a theme that's been building up in me. In fact, the theme goes right back to almost dead on a year ago when Patch is busy sitting on my water bottle and a few other things. It goes back to when I left my corporate job. I went on a vision quest, and go down, Patch. Patch isn't sure what to do. He's like wandering around. What is it you want to do? He's trying to get cozy. I think those things are in his way. Let's see if I can move some of these around. He's just trying to find like the perfect place for Patch. Yeah, so a year ago, I just left my corporate job, just left the office, and that was on the my last day was the 30th of April, and we're now at is it the 28th just now? And what was really cool was they sang me a song, we had pizza, we stood around and chatted for a couple of hours, and it was with the teams that I'd founded while I was there, for the 8 years I was there. And Patch and I were getting busy, and it was funny because we headed up north to go up and visit, and I didn't really know why I was, guided to. My guides were saying, John, go back up to one of the first places I ever lived, because I moved from Watford in England to Dollar, and then up from Dollar to what Patches to from Dollar to North Berwick, and just a long list of moves. But yeah, it was really beautiful to receive that guidance. So I did. And in my journey, to go on that sabbatical, what I really loved was that I didn't really know why I was going there, but when I got there and the memories started coming back, I realized that, oh wow, those memories were of a really beautiful time in my life. Everything felt so magical. Everything was much more rainbows, unicorns, owls and wood pigeons, squirrels, and I remember the landscape around me, my memories of the landscape around, because we lived in this, it was so Scottish, right? We were just in this little, this cottage. It was called South Lodge Cottage. And it was a renovation project. There was a nice flashing light in the sky out there. Hello! A red flashing light. That's a funny light, actually. And yeah, I felt like I was in this kind of green land, so like a meadow, and that my home was on one side was the little village of Dollar, which is so funny that it's called Dollar, and yet it's nothing to do with, well, I don't believe it has anything to do with the US dollar or any other dollar. Yeah, it was dead funny because, and there was hills in front of us, and it just felt like I was just surrounded by magic. It's the only way I could describe it. And even though, we went through some hardships, including some tough winters when we were renovating the cottage, we had to live in a caravan. I felt very happy, very contented. I had friends that lived nearby. I had my favourite bike. There goes a flashing light in the sky again. It just all felt really, really wonderful. And I also remember I would speak gibberish sometimes. And do you remember, do you have kids that did this, or do you remember when you did it as a kid, that when you played, I would just make these funny noises, and I would find it really hard to say, to verbalize now. But I remember, it would be somewhere along the lines of oh, and it was always that kind of sound was, I think I used to call it baby talk, and for me, in a very affectionate way, because that makes such sense as well, because some people feel, and you can feel into how true this is for you, that babies speak light language, right? They just speak the language of their soul, they haven't learned the human language yet, or they've forgotten it through the veil of forgetfulness. So they're just making funny noises. And I was always in such wonderment and delight about the world and environment around me, and that would definitely explain a lot of those sounds. Also, everything was very simple, right? When you're that age, you're interested, well, I was interested in what I was doing for the day. I could go out and play. I remember playing outside a lot, which is a continued theme through my childhood. And also, I don't really remember. I find it hard to. I have a lot of memories of when I was very young, but it's hard for me to discern what was a psychic ability and what wasn't, because they weren't really different, right? And I think that's a key aspect of our lives as adults, is that it didn't feel like I just said that I would go into a meditation and then practice, saying something like third eye open, or heart open, or solar plexus activation, some sort of I don't know, anime movie or Pokemon or something. and that felt liberating in itself. I feel when I feel back to that age now, and I connect with some of those memories, and I'm remembering playing outside at the little cottage, playing in the little garden we had. I felt that it was, how to describe it, like a heart-mind connection that was very strong. It felt very fluid, almost like a kind of like a liquid-like feeling of the energy flowing between every aspect of you. Isn't that wonderful? And just very, very empowering. Like, maybe I'd also describe it as a significantly increased capability for joy. And I don't just mean like, knowing how to do joyful things. Like, when I think about it as an adult, everything seems so strained in comparison. For example, as a 48-year-old, so what is that, 44 years later, my mind seems to have to do a lot of work, right? It's like, oh, John, how are we going to be in joy today? Like, oh well, John, you got to figure that out. Whereas when I was a kid, when I was 4, I felt it, right? I just feel the next thing to do. And I also remember sometimes, like, my parents would be telling me, oh, you need to go and play outside today because there's something inside, or it's too cold outside, come in and inside and play, like, all these different things. What's a wee bunny rabbit? And so it's, sometimes, like, things were cut short, in other words. So I'd feel that was a bit of a joy kill, a buzz kill. Yet overall, things just felt really, really lovely. And I did ask my mum, when I recently visited my mother, I asked her, a bit about what she remembers of her time there, and she was in her 20s. She was a young mother. My mother and father moved up to the area, and they both worked in a factory, textiles factory, making clothes. And I feel like it was a really happy time for them. She describes it as feeling quite abundant. I do remember my dad had a company car while we were there, and I think he was doing quite well. He was really just getting started in his career, but he was maybe just a few years into it. And back in the day, in the 80s, this must have been very early 80s, like 81 or something. So I was born in 76, so it's like 81. And I would need to look up, I need to literally Google the dates for this, but just before we left, not long before we left, Charles and Diana got married. So I'm sure if you Googled that, I'd get like a date. It's funny how you navigate this, Charles and Diana as in now King Charles. Isn't that fascinating that he's now a king, and I'm talking about a time when he was just getting married. How much has changed in 45 years? And so I did say in the training tonight, I said, oh, to me it does feel a bit like I'm 4 again. A bit kind of ask myself, what have I been doing the last 45 years? Where's the joy been? And it would be unfair to say that my life has lacked joy. Clearly, if you don't watch my content every day on YouTube, you'll see that I love joy. I feel in joy all the time, especially over the last year since I went full-time work for myself. But even that can bring its own stresses and strains, right? And it's a bit ironic because you feel like, oh, I'm living my dream life, but yet you now have like an even higher bar for joy, because you have to like, there's almost a pressure to do the kind of Instagram thing of like showing how great my life is, and I have these incredible pictures of you in fantastic inspirational places doing fantastic inspirational joyous things, and at the same time you're building a business and you're probably working a lot because you're working your way out of that third dimension paradigm of productivity that equals self-worth or self-love. So it's a lot, but I am so grateful for that experience. And in hindsight, when I look back at the last year and how, like, it's definitely a journey to being more like I was when I was 4 years old, and yet now I have the body and a mind and the heart of an adult. And this is a really fascinating concept to talk more about. And I like talking out loud because it helps me integrate. But one key thing for me is that the mind. So imagine this is a concept, right? And again, comparing it to what it's like when you're 4 years old. Your mind is fantastic at like figuring out the next task to do. It's like a computer, right? And I feel like sometimes people give the ego a really hard time. You may notice, I don't really talk a lot about the ego, and I don't claim to have no ego, which I kind of think it's a bit impossible for people to have no ego, because for me it's at very least a sense of self. But yeah, sure, I can, if you listen to me long enough, you'll pick up on the pieces that I have stronger ego about and not. I don't know, maybe I'll, brag about a world record, at least in 2022, it was a world record for creating and releasing 110 albums digitally. That feels good in my ego, but it also feels really good in my heart. Anyway, you can discern for yourself when it's my ego talking, when it isn't. But going back to the mind, I feel like our minds, we expect like everything, right? We expect our minds to, figure out the next thing we should say and do, the next thing we should feel about, worry about. That we put our minds, it's almost like we take our consciousness, which I feel is located in our heart, and then we connect it, we tightly connect it with our minds, and we say, okay, mind, now do all the hard work, including like, all the emotions. You got to know when to feel happy, when it's sad, like, and at most, what the mind is encouraged to do is just ask your heart sometimes and just say, how do you feel? Oh, I feel good. And then, or I don't feel good. And then that's it, right? This is a great time to travel. There's no traffic. There's another downside of traveling at this time, right? Which is sometimes they close the roads and then you're screwed. You're like, oh, I saved so much time, and then you're driving for like an extra few hours because of the diversions. That's not going to happen tonight, John. We're all good. Can I think of some examples about my mind? Well, a really simple one, right, is when I say to my mind, let's create a business plan. And I want to be really clear, like, I have no business plan. But I'd also say that many businesses don't have a vision, and I have a vision. Oh, speaking of diversions, this looks fun. What's going on here? Slow right down and see cones diverting me around this large flashing sign. think that's why the guy earlier was flashing at me. Drive through the cones without becoming hypnotized by them and knocking into them. Okay, you're doing great, John. Oh no, some of these are like all over the place, these cones. Yay, cone chicane is over. Thank you guys for looking after our roads and working the night today as well. I hope they get well compensated in time and energy and money. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, business plan. So imagine saying to my mind, okay, you've got to feel, dear mind, right? You've got to feel into, there is no plan, right? So you just got to feel into this vision I created, and it's wonderful. I'm going to like help all these people balance their light and dark, and help all these people in their awakening journeys. And your mind is literally like a computer, like hungry for like a problem to solve, or a task to go and do, or figure out the next steps. But it's like, oh, so what you're saying is we don't really know what the next steps are. You want me to figure out the next thing. It's like, oh yeah, but like don't overthink it. Just like feel into it. And the reality is, your brain, your crown chakra will ask your heart and say, okay, heart, let's get a heart answer on this. And you may have or may not have noticed that my business is called Heart-Centered Wellness for that reason. Okay. We're driving around a roundabout, John. It's so quiet. It reminds me of lockdown. It's so quiet. Also, like these really difficult extremes that we go through with emotions, our minds are not really good at getting us out of it, right? Because I remember, I'm not asking for sympathy or even empathy, describing these situations, these traumas in my life, but I feel like it just helps with some context. Some of the lowest points in my life, like just after when we lost our daughter Katie in 2003, just after as she was being born, that I just went into really quite a deep depression. Slow workforce in road. Slow. Okay. I think I read that sign exactly how you're meant to read it, which is slow, and then there's workforce in the road. Let me see if I can clean your screen as well. So, where was I getting to? I was so low, and I didn't really know how to get out of it, right? Like your brain, without your heart, or if there's a disconnect between the two, it makes everything so much harder. It's almost like having a couple where your mind is like, maybe your mind's the man and the heart's the woman, for example. I mean, it could be any gender swapped around, any role, but the mind is saying, oh, why are you so sad? It's like, and your heart's saying, it's just so hard, I just feel so sad. And so your mind's like, well, maybe we should go back to work. When we're working, we're happier than this. And the heart's like, oh, okay, well, let's try it. And then, you sit down and you try and work. and your heart's like, no. Well, these are red lights. This looks like roadworks. This looks like workforce in the road. I don't know why there's red lights on both sides of the road. That's weird. I think it's to make it extra obvious to people like me. These are annoying, but look quite cool on camera. So, I think the lights see me. You can't see on the camera, but it goes on really far down. I wonder if they might have an escort vehicle here that's letting us go backwards and forwards. Anywho, yeah, I found it really hard to get out of that. Wow, motorbike at this minute, driving at 11:30. I found it really hard to get out of those really depressive, like dark stages in my life. But I felt like there was this kind of process of a lot of talking about it. I talked a lot to my wife. There's a big lorry coming down now. I talked a lot about my wife, and that helped us with a lot of healing. We spent a lot of time together. This is a giant lorry. Wow. With other vehicles right up behind it. We spoke a lot about it. I remember feeling a lot of anger towards loved ones who didn't really know how to help, and quite often didn't help latterly. And I eventually realized that it was, I was expecting unreasonable things. Like, they'd already shown up. They came along to Katie's funeral. Well, most of them did. They'd kept in touch a little bit, and then I look back now and I see that they also just wanted to give us space. And so we eventually, I do remember this, getting really angry about it one night. Oh my god, this guy's crossing the road. Jeevers. That is grim. Don't expect to drive through that. Yeah, it felt like I was just kind of screaming into an empty void. And I say very angry. If you've seen me angry, I'm not like the Hulk for sure. More like a baby Hulk. Hulk smash! Certainly not very intimidating. But I just remember saying to my wife, I was like, I'm just so annoyed and angry that I'm not getting more support from others. And lightly, she was saying something very wise to me, because she is incredibly wise. An amazing wife, an amazing mother to our kids. And I was hearing myself sharing this energy of anger, and it's like I realized it wasn't just one person. You can't, and it's a really funny feeling to be angry at all your loved ones except for my wife. And at that point I realized my mind was just, I'd said to my heart, okay heart, just talk it through, just share it, just see what happens, share as much as you can. But my mind just didn't know what to do next. And it was only really when my heart heard itself screaming into this infinite void, realized, okay, this is, if you want to do this, you can do this for the rest of your life. If you want, you can just scream into this infinite void of anger. And that's when things started to change. I started to stop looking outside of me for the answers, and started to realize I just need to, start to explore things in my life that help me even just a little bit, and keep talking, keep processing it, and just get through the next stage in the bereavement and the grieving process. And yeah, those heart-mind connections are just so powerful, right? And it's funny. So if I forward wind just to bring some examples of a couple of days ago, and I'd love to think that this is what the 4-year-old version of me would have done as well. Is like I run a business, right? So I'm trying to pay my business costs, which are anything. Well, I think they're around £15,000 a year, just for the costs of running it all, and that varies from equipment for podcasts and client sessions, all the way through to and renting spaces for clients, and then also hosting websites and all kinds of stuff. It's lots of things, and those costs have definitely come down now that I've settled more on what services I really need, or right for me at this time. So my mind is usually tasked with the finance side, and for example, when a client comes to me and says, "John, I'm interested in a few different services from your website," or maybe they've booked some things already, or maybe they're just inquiring about a series of different things, I'm thinking, my mind is like, oh great, so that's more income. They're going to buy these things, and then, or potentially they're going to buy these things, and then that will bring in more money. And then my heart, I now do this thing where I ask my mind and ask my heart. So when I was trying to figure out something, my mind was like, oh, I don't know, should I give them a discount for this? Maybe, I don't know. Or hang on, is that inconsistent for other clients? I want to be consistent for all clients. And I was thinking about those things. And so my mind got a little bit stuck and confused. So I just placed my hand on my heart. So at the time I'm sat in my living room sofa, I had YouTube on, watching, catching up with the latest UFO news, and watching people living in vans. And it was lovely because I asked my heart, and my heart said, John, this person has already signed up for a lot of things. The focus doesn't need to be on making lots of money, right? For this person, feel into what feels right for them. What feels like it would support them the most. How can you help them the most, John? I was like, wow. And the feeling was very different to the mind, right? Now, you do really have to have both, because if I just gave everything away, I'd run out of money fast. If I did everything for free. But my heart wasn't saying that, right? My heart didn't say, the point wasn't give it all for free. My heart was saying that a cost isn't the most important thing. Doing the right thing for them is. So for example, I have two membership, I have two mentorship packages. One is for 6 sessions and one is for 12 sessions. And I could easily put in an email. Oh, by the way, I could even mention both and say, there's 12 or 6 months, and then the person's left thinking, oh, maybe I should think about the 12 months. Maybe it's a better deal, because it's like it's a bigger discount on the more sessions you buy. And honestly, my heart was not interested in that. My heart was like, don't waste your energy writing a sentence and sharing a link and an email for something you just don't feel is the best thing for someone. If they are interested in 6 months, 6 sessions, you think that would be a good fit for them and you think you can really help them in those 6, then do that. And I've also had situations where my heart's tougher, right? And it said, John, do you really think for other people, and this goes back quite a few months ago, if they that person applied for 6 sessions, would you offer it to them? Do you really think you could help them? Or would it be frustrating for both parties where you're kind of cycling back with the same things let's say you did a session every week, and once a week you're just meeting up for an hour saying, have you done the thing? No. Okay, well, I suggest you do the thing. Great. Let's chat next week and see how far you got with the thing. And so it repeats. I had enough of that at Amazon with people that struggled to prioritize their career. And I'm so glad, because I wasn't glad that they struggled to prioritize their career over the company, but I'm so glad that I had the experience of mentoring many people and helping them on their journeys. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed that. And maybe a little bit part the ego, but I always feel like when I'm mentoring people that I'm just accessing a higher aspect of myself. My higher self has a lot more to say, and I come out with wisdom that is new to me. And yeah, that feeds my identity, my self-worth, my ego. But I always feel like every single person is different, and every single person I've got to like listen to a lot, and I really love listening. Maybe my loved ones wouldn't say I'm the world's best listener. Maybe I use up a lot of my listening energy with clients. But yeah, I feel blessed at least to be able to hold space for people and to listen to their problems. And I think it's really like listening, like as a stereotypical man. If I was 4 years old and I was listening to someone, I would listen with my heart, right? I'd listen to like, how does it feel? Someone's telling you something, listen to how that feels. Listen with your heart. They're saying words to you. And quite often people, they how do you describe it? Like, tell the story of an emotion through words. Just like I mean, really, that's what I do in these driving videos, right? I'm sharing feelings with you through many, many words. And I'm having feelings, I'm sharing the words, and then I'm sharing the words and having feelings about hearing myself. I don't really watch these videos back much, but I have a lot of memories of them. And yeah, I know there's a lot of background noise, but you wouldn't get any of these videos if I went in and had to filter out all the background noise. So it just is. It's authentic, it's raw, that's for sure. Literally no editing. And I feel like, especially when you ask someone how they're doing, this is how I do like a one-to-one at Amazon. Hey, how are you doing? How are you? Just like one of the first team members he was already there when I joined Amazon. His name's Ahmed. What an amazing guy, one of the best developers I've ever met, and an amazing personality. And really resonate with his sense of autonomy and drive and tenacity, and a really good mentor as well. And whenever we'd sit down at the start of a one-to-one, I'd just say, "Hey Ahmed, how are you?" And it was our joke, like it was our private joke, if you like, where we would say it every time. And when I saw him in February and I visited his office, I walked up to his desk and I sat down next to him and I said, "Hey Ahmed, you coming for a one-to-one?" And then I said, "Hey Ahmed, how are you?" And we were both laughing. It's like, "John, what are you doing here?" It's like he was so shocked to see me. Like his brain, it was so funny. It's literally like I was a ghost resurrected. And he did look around to other people to see if I acknowledged, if they acknowledged that I was real, which was so funny. So that was real lovely. But from that moment, it's your perfect moment to become 4 years old again, right? When you ask someone how they're doing, just feel like that 4-year-old again. Open your heart, allow your ears to receive, and just let them talk out all their, moans and traumas and pain and stress. And what I do is, I don't think I used to do this when I was 4, right? So it doesn't really scale very well if you're just taking that energy and putting it directly in your heart. But what I do is literally before it goes into my heart, I catch it, almost like you're catching a baseball. And I catch it in a little golden bubble, like about the size of a melon. And that's how I hold space. Like I hold it within that, hold that energy that they're resonating out towards me, and I put it into that little golden bubble, like melon-sized golden bubble. And why is that important? It's important because if you absorb their energy, it gets really stressful, right? When someone comes, like if like your partner comes home from work, or a friend's telling you all about their work, and they're like blah 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 blah, this person, that person, blah blah. I did this, I did that. Maybe shouldn't have done this. When you're going through that, you feel a bit like you can only take so much of it, right? And so you don't need to bring it into your heart to feel it. Just hold it in that little golden bubble and hold space. And so I learned that quite early on. I can't remember if I always visualize a little golden bubble or a little protective space, but that really resonates with me. It was fascinating. That was a place I could have stayed at last night. Tonight. It's coming up in 7 minutes to midnight. Wow, we've only been going an hour, but we're keeping good time. We would get there in 7 hours. If I had the stamina to drive 7 hours safely, I would be so excited to do it. It'd be a lot of fun. Who knows? I have a lot of energy drinks and snacks. I have these healthy energy drinks. And I remember chatting with other managers about their one-to-ones. And this is at Amazon, and some people would find it really hard because they were so, how to describe it, often what we do is we close our hearts and we leave our poor mind. So our heart's closed, blocked, protected, whatever state it's in a kind of we're not open for business state when you turn up for work. And so everything's running from the mind. And so your mind's like kind of treating it all a bit like you're a robot. And so when someone comes in and they say, "Oh, I have depression," and so your mind's like, "Depression, tick box." And then you say something courteous like, "Sorry to hear that." But without the energy of what, the emotion should ideally be much more empathetic and would be more like, oh my, like that's a huge thing. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's brave of you to share such a powerful emotion and experience. Please tell me more about how that feels for you. How does that affect you? And yet, what many managers would say to me is that they would just, they'd describe it a journey of them hardening and protecting themselves, because it's self-preservation. Like it's closing your heart down to others is great to protect your heart, but you'll lose all that empathy, right? And then some would maybe have they would do a thing where the heart would be open perhaps for the first 5 minutes of the hour chat, and like, "Hey, how are you?" And I watched this really cool show last night, and they'd have just a social chat, and then the heart would close, right? And then it would just be on with the, "Okay, tell me about all your problems." And I remember there was a couple of people I managed. I started in management when I was really young. When I look back, I was so pushy and driven. I was 20. I'm gonna say 23, 24 when I first became a manager of a small team. It just seemed so young. And although I was quite wise for a 23, 24-year-old, I was just so bullish and brazen and wanted to become the best I could be really fast. I was always in such a hurry, I always wanted to get promoted and earn more money and buy a bigger house and a better car and go on more fancy holidays. So there was all these things tightly coupled together. Perhaps part of me wanted to prove that I could do it, prove to myself I could do it. But I remember there was two people I managed. One was then when I was maybe it was a couple of years into that job at a digital C2B company in Scotland, and I remember a member of staff one of my team coming up to me and getting really upset. They asked me to have a chat, so we went in a room together, and they're getting really upset. They cried a little bit, and because they're complaining about another co-worker, but I mean none of it was bullying or abusive or anything like that. They were just really frustrated, and I think if anything, what frustrated them the most is that the other person that they were talking about was really very good at their job, and I think that really annoyed them, and they weren't very good at explaining it to others, and that annoyed them even more. So they just came in and vented about it, and I said I'll have a chat with them. I'll encourage them to take some practical steps to teach you more about the stuff that they do. And my team member said, "No, I don't want you to do that. I just wanted to vent. I just wanted to get you in a room and just share this." I said, they said, "That's just how I feel about it. But in reflection, I don't think it's really fair of me to ask you or for you to go and complain to this person. It's really not part of their job." And they weren't this wasn't a senior member of staff. In fact, they're quite junior. And I said, "Okay, thank you so much. That helps a lot. Helps me understand your motivations about why you'd want to chat with me." And I said, "First of all, you can come and vent anytime, right? but know that I'll often take action, and that what you do then, whilst it is in privacy, it goes into my head too. So I'll be thinking about at some point some sort of solution to it, even if you don't ask me. So, in other words, now that you've told me, I reserve the right to just make a decision to do whatever I decide to. And I remember later in my career, some 10 years later, someone saying these things as well. Like, I just came to complain a bit. I just came to moan a bit. It's like, that's fine. I'm glad you feel that you have a connection with me, that you can just come and moan and complain about things. That was fine too. Oh, and there's another thing I wanted to share about when I was 4. Now, this came just a little bit later, definitely by age 5, but quite possibly between 4 and 5. I was a big fan of the A-Team, letter A team, in case you can't hear it over my noisy engine. The A-Team were an 80s TV show for like, wow, so 80s. Mercenaries, I think that most of them, or all of them, were ex-army, with guns, and they would like, kind of like get, when you got a problem and someone else can't solve it, you call the A-Team. And guess what the A-Team had? They had a van. They had an A-Team van, right? What am I driving right now? A van. And what else did I enjoy watching? Scooby-Doo. And what was it called? The Mystery Machine or something? Yeah, they had a van too. I also liked Herbie, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. These popular vehicles that were sentient. It's so funny because now we look at it and say, like, Herbie Goes Bananas, like the Volkswagen was like an AI self-driving car, gone sentient. It's very cool. Yeah, I think that's really funny to reflect on. I'm now starting to realize why some of these things, when I was a little kid, like they're clearly like making an impression on me, but I didn't really know what I would translate that to later in life. Like this feeling right now, like literally my map. Listen to me, literally my map. This one time at band camp, I'm so geeky and love it. Literally the map on my phone, Google Maps, shows me driving from where we are right now to the very south of the country, so the very end. So it's like literally, and the road I'm on is the A1, which is this road just now is the A1. It's the longest road in the UK, and I think it's like one of the oldest. And it's like, and the road's empty, and it just feels like this open road. Oh, I can see a star. This open road ahead just feels so liberating. I've got all my, I've got stocked up on water. I emptied the toilet. It didn't seem very full, but I'm so glad I did. You don't know the detail. It needed emptied. I bought lots of food, and I've got a patch, and I've got the time booked off work. So yeah, it's just a real honour to feel that excitement. And it's quite funny because imagine if I had the 4-year-old John next to me. I would love that a lot. If I could say a few things to my 4-year-old just now, 4-year-old John, the first thing I'd say is, John, please don't ever change. Keep going. Like, you're so magical. And don't worry about all the small stuff. Don't work so late and fill your time with busyness when actually your creativity and your intuition and your big heart is so powerful beyond the capability of your mind and your ability to type stuff into a keyboard and to logically share it with others. Like you use your big heart, use your mind. Let's have a drink. I'd say I love you. Keep playing. Try new things. Keep exploring new things that bring you joy. Some things I've only touched on a little bit, like climbing. I'd love to do more climbing. For sure, if there was a climbing centre next door, I'd do that more. I also wonder if you can hire companies to put, those climbing, they bolt on these kind of little plastic or rubber mold things that you for foot and hand grips. I don't even know what you call those little climbing things that stick out of walls and different surfaces so you can climb them. Imagine doing that in your house. I'd love to do it in the back garden. That'd be a lot of fun. What else would I say to my 4-year-old me? Like, yeah, you're magical. Like, you're gonna change this world, and even if it's just for one person, with one person, help one person, like it all makes it worthwhile. And it's so funny. I don't know. Oh, this was an earlier video I was making about the drive from Edinburgh to Dunbar, and that is that the thing I would go through where I'd post, the feeling I get when I post something on YouTube is a bit like buying a lottery ticket, because I feel like each time's a chance for something to go viral. What's funny is I don't really expect driving videos to go viral because they're such low effort. I'm driving and I'd like to keep myself awake by talking to you. So, and I just share it. I upload it because I hope that somewhere on the lines there's some nuggets in here that help you. Golden nuggets of truth. And now I've lost my train of thought. Oh, there goes some blue flashing lights. My guess is an ambulance. We are getting closer to the city now. Yeah, an ambulance. But yeah, wouldn't that be a wonderful thing to do, to be able to sit next to the 4-year-old you and have a chat? And you could ask, your 4-year-old you could ask some questions. Hey John, what happens in the next 45 years? Like, oh, you're gonna love it. 44 years, because 44 plus 4 is 48. Hey 4-year-old me, hey, that's 444, I never thought about that. And then 48 is 2 4s. Anyway, the 8 is, not the 48. Anyway, thank you, baby John, 4-year-old John, just giving you a little pat next to me. Take good care of yourself. Keep going, you're magical, don't sweat the small stuff. Be kind to your big beautiful hearts. Be kind to others. There we go, there's my advice. And I feel like my 4-year-old me is really interested in what I'm doing right now. Like, what are you doing? Well, because now I'm guessing, and this is a memory that's come up several times, I'm guessing that this next memory I'm about to tell you is, I think it's age 5, right? Let's say it's 5 years old. So I'm not very big. Well, I'm not very big now, but I was definitely not very big when I was 5. And we were going on holiday to Cornwall, right? So we lived still like really close. We'd moved down to, by the time I was 5, we moved from Dollar down to North Berwick, which is, 8 or 13 miles or something from where I live in Dunbar. That sign says Shill bottle, by the way. Sometimes it changed the L to a T, which is really funny. On the sign, they don't actually change the village name. That would be really silly. It would sound Shill, right? So yeah, the memory I had was like as a family. So we're a family at the time. We were a family of 4. When I was 5 years old, my younger brother, who's 8.5 years younger, hadn't been born yet, and we had a dog, Jess, who was a rough collie. She looked very, very similar to Lassie from the TV show and movies. Really beautiful dog. And I remember, what did we do? I think we did something like we got all packed up, not dissimilar to what I did tonight. Like got packed up in the evening. We might have even gone to sleep for an hour or 2. I can't remember. And then we got back up. I remember that feeling, like, and asking my mum, like, why are we getting up at like 2 in the morning or something? And then we all got in the car. And I think what my parents have done is like put 2 sleeping bags across the back seat, and they're like top to tail with my brother and I, and then we would. I think the idea is that we would just sleep the whole way down. Now I'm not even sure if that car had seatbelts in the back, but back then in the early 80s, there was no legal requirement for cars to even have rear seatbelts, let alone to have them on. So we sat there. I think it wasn't a very big car. It might have been a Capri, a Ford Capri, which I think was, if anything, was more of a sporty car. I think we also had an Astra around that time as well. I'm not so sure. But yeah, it wasn't a very big car. And certainly it wasn't big for UK standards. I hate to think what that would be like for US standards. But yeah, it was really funny because we did actually sleep. I remember my brother and I slept quite a lot, and then we slept for a few hours, and then we woke up and played, whatever, I Spy. There was also a game called Pass the Pigs, where you throw pigs and they end up in like 2 little pigs instead of dice or die. And then depending how they fell, you would like get different points. That was quite funny. And the memory of driving through the night seems quite vivid. I think maybe my mum and dad took the driving taking it in turns. Yeah, my dad definitely powered on a lot through the night, and this, me doing this, just even attempting to drive some of the journey through the night is somewhat bemusing to me. That it seems aligned with that memory. I have no idea what we actually did. For all I know, we stopped 3 times. I don't know, 3 nights to get down there. I don't think we did. I think we drove down as much as we could through the night. I think I don't really know how much time I'll save driving down because hey Patch, I think he's going into the back to explore. Yeah, I don't know how much time you really save. It's more that you Patch is gone. I don't think you'll be able to see anything at the back. There is a wee green light on in the back. But what seems fascinating, there's a little bit of a false economy. Like if you drive through the night, I'm going to be exhausted, so I might turn up. For instance, I might be able to turn up and almost surprise my first client, like, hey, I made it to you, and I wasn't even sure if I could make it to them, because I know that the second client that I'm seeing isn't ready to see me in the morning. But the reality is, even if I drive down and get close, I could wake up and drive to them in the morning and see them. And then I think it's a couple of hours from the first client to the second client. And if they decide to share their names, or we do a selfie or something, I can make it, public. But until then, I'll keep it private. So, yeah, that memory of, I remember we drove all the way down, drove down overnight, and then we headed back up. We headed out to a campsite, and I'm sure we spent a couple of weeks there in a really big tent. And I suspect, because we used to have this like massive, like a 9-person tent, this big old thing, which I think my dad's dad, he had it from like the scout group, so it was more for like adventures with teaching kids, how to camp and be out in the wilderness. But it was a giant tent, so it took a lot of effort to put up. Interesting, my camper van's saying I have a range of 590 miles. That's quite good. And it's already used. I had a full tank when I set off. Yeah, I remember my brother and I, we had a separate tent, which actually suited us fine. I also remember that we had A-Team action figures. I think I had Face and he had B.A. Baracus. Or was Hannibal? Yeah, Hannibal was that is the name, right? Hannibal. What a funny name. For, I don't know, this may be context or some religious context, something that I don't understand about the name, but just reminds me of Hannibal Lecter. But yeah, it's definitely not him. But that was so cool that it was just such a wonderful experience. Now, what I don't know is my GPS my phone's just reported it's overheating, and so it closed down the GPS. So now I'm not sure what I should do. I think what I'll do is stop the recording. Yeah, I think we'll do that. But anyway, all I was going to say is that was a real lovely memory of age 5 or so, driving all the way down overnight. And that's something that it's a lot of fun trying just now, like experiencing an overnight drive. There's something very magical about it, very liberating. And I really don't know what will happen tomorrow. I don't know who I'm going to visit, if they're going to be available. I don't know how far I'll make it. I think even if I'm tempted, even if I get to a place, even if I'm really struggling to drive, I don't mean like I'm not going to do anything dangerous. I would just pull over early, because I just turn on the diesel heater and even just sit in my driver chair or the back bed, sleep for an hour and then get up and go. But rather than set everything up for bedtime, get my duvet out, close all the windows, go to sleep, I don't think I'd bother doing all that. Yeah, it just feels really, really liberating, and my heart is just really enjoying it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and maybe this is a good thing to do, is to like break these things up. You don't want to have to watch 10 hours of videos. And I'll just give them titles, like, and then you can decide what resonates with you. But you, like, if you've listened to this video, like, you're a hardcore, right? You're like a hardcore John Binnie fan. Thank you. I don't even listen to this length of video, but I really love the opportunity to share with you. And thank you for joining me on my drive. Quite a few of you comment on these videos and say, I was with you the whole time. Please do let me know. All right, thank you so much. Take care.